All right, hello everyone. Uh, this is Hawk, or Samarev. Samarev is my writing name, which is why it's also on the slide. However, if you've been following my Minecraft channel or regularly attend my streams, you'll know me as Hawk. Now, I'm not actually physically here. I'm not at my home right now because of a family thing that I wanted to attend, but it's also Saturday, a day which I usually stream. And when I was setting up my streaming channel, I wanted to be able to just put all of my very long form content on here as well, which is why it's not just Grovite streaming or something like that. It's Grovite Sessions Live because any recording session that I put on here, or if I stream on this channel, it's live. So figured premieres worked and technically didn't break my personal streak of streaming something. Ah, go back. That isn't. There we go. Streaming something. I'm recording this in one take, and it's gonna be the first take, so if it feels like I'm recording it in one take, that's why. And I'm just gonna upload the MP4 of whatever ends up happening onto my channel. So this is also going to be unedited. So let's just see what ends up happening. Um, So anyway, the basic premise of the Grove. It started with every tree universe. Oh, I probably should explain what I'm doing. Ah, anyway. So I probably should explain sort of what exactly is going on in this presentation. Obviously, I wanted to record something to put up here that I knew I could do for like a long time, and I decided why not just talk about my personal little world building project that I consistently have in the background occasionally. So this is the a Grovite world, aka my world building stuff. Woo! So, basic premise of this world building project that I usually work on. It started out in my freshman year at because with the phrase thing, every tree every tree universe, every branch a timeline. So, because I was thinking of what could I have that functions as an OC orphanage or a story hub, aka sort of like those pools in Narnia in that one book where it leads to the different worlds, or just a place where I can put all my OCs, even if they don't have a story. I just have them in the Grove. So I have sort of a world building concept that I don't need a specific world for. So I can work on like a magic system or certain characters, but not worry about like what specific world they're from. So I have been having a lot of fun with it because it feels lower stakes. And this presentation will cover the basic history, because I do have some history of the Grove. It's not a lot, but there is some because I develop characters over time, and the Grove has different phases phases that it has gone through because I've been developing this since freshman year of high school. To give an idea of what that means, it's over 10 years now. It's 10, maybe 11 years ago. So it's been quite a while since this concept has been in my head. So basic history, locations in the Grove, and I even made some like maps that we will get into during the location section. We also have people and the magic system because I like fantasy. And there are occasional checkpoints because I will eventually want to edit this down into just the different sections. So locations, people, magic system, into their own sections, so it's easier for people to reference back, and so I can upload this to my Grovite Multiverse channel, which is where I usually would post this sort of content. So, basic timeline. Era 1, tree scraps. Basically, it's anything that's I consider to be when it was early in development or just when I'm trying to figure out where everything exists. Basically, it's whatever is considered the earliest phase of development. So, oh, you also have Storytelling Academy. So, Storytelling Academy, which will be mentioned a few times in this presentation, is basically a concept that I did for a web design class because I was able to take one as one of my electives during high school. I think it was during my senior year, and one of the things we had to do was we had to create a website. And I decided, what if I make this fictional school as my little website thing? And Storytelling Academy is under the tree scraps because was actually one of the earlier versions. Because at one point I had this idea, okay, well, what if it's an academy that is about storytelling? I don't I don't remember exactly the reason why I called it Storytelling Academy because it's not how I would name things now. I would have like a much fancier name. I'm not sure what that would be off the top of my head, but Storytelling Academy, it's just they would also have like these portals within this tower, which would be the locations that could access the other worlds. And so occasionally a character would come through one of those portals, end up in this place. So that's one of the places. And you basic take that's where the basic tagline came in. We're every tree universe, every branch timeline. So Era 2, the first Dark Plague, which is supposed to be like an apocalypse, and it's supposed to reference a dark place in my life where lots of different things happen. So, because high school can be hard to deal with emotions because you're learning about yourself and also dealing with social pressures, and so it was just not a fun time for me, and so and that consequently uh, affects what OCs I write or how I do things. So first Dark Plague, and the Dark Plague is actually a world building concept that I do have. I didn't include in this presentation. I actually took out the miscellaneous section in this presentation because I wanted it to be able to be uploaded for this Saturday. The Saturday that this is uploaded, at least on the streaming channel, if it's not on the multiverse channel. And so that exists. um, yeah, not a fun time, but there is like it is an actual sickness that has symptoms and everything. So I might do a video on that. Don't know if I will get around to it, but so DP intermission, that just means Dark Plague intermission, so it's whichever is between the first Dark Plague and the second Dark Plague because I wanted to restructure things a little bit. Not much changed admittedly, but if I were ever to write a story where it's about the Grove, it would be in the current era, which is after that Dark Plague. So it's just sort of to explain a little bit about why things happened, or just to give a little bit more explanation for things. I just know that there's two Dark Plagues and there's like a period in the middle. Oh, and when I was looking at reference information, because I do have world building documents inside my Google Drive, I actually found out that one of the districts actually was part of one district, but I know that it's actually an island now, so that's fun. So Grovite locations. Uh, really easy transition to that. Grovite locations. So this is general locations within the Grove. Grovite is literally just anyone or anything related to the Grove. It's just a word that I came up with, and I've been using it. So this is the first. I don't know why is it called basic. I think I must have switched around the slides a little bit, or like copy and pasted or something. So ignore the fact that it says basic area map B right now, because it's not supposed to be, but regardless. So obviously you have the main grove, then you have what's called the abyss. So the abyss is where any sort of like lost objects end up there. If there's any sort of excess energy, it ends up there. It just exists because of one of my stories, and I'm like, oh, this would just be under the grove. I, I it's been a while since I worked on the concept. Next is the Golden Valley. The Golden Valley will have its own sort of section in the locations. All you need to know is that it's a town, and it exists connected to both the main grove and the abyss. but it is also connected to an Earth, like real life Earth version, fictional realm. But then it's also connected to the mangrove, so it's like this little pocket dimension that technically exists between both. Additionally, you also have this storage and farming section dimension between the mangrove and the abyss. So some stuff comes from the storage farming and falls into the abyss. Some things, the mangrove ends up taking stuff out of the storage or uses the area for farming because space magic exists. So it just kind of ended up that way. But right now we're going to just focus on the mangrove because that's what this presentation is about. So here's another map. And so you have the atmosphere, which has the sun, which just has excess energy and then gives energy. Then you have the tree in the middle is called the mother tree. And so you have the main layer called the residential or main area. Then you have the upper tunnels, which has the portals in different sections, which are accessible to the storage and farming area. Then you have the lower tunnels, which are sort of like the catacombs, sewers, hidden caves, more of like the upper tunnels, but just creepier. And then you have the underwaters, which is like actual water. I just like the idea that there's this dark underwater area underneath the grove. I just thought it's cool. Then you have the abyssal barrier, which is between the abyss and the main grove. So, oh, this one's called Area Map A. I just forgot to switch them out before I did this presentation. Well, moving on. So this is the main grove area. So of course you have the center tree area, then you have the government and office district, the youth education district, residential shopping, then you have the utility, jail, specific trees, universe trees are for videos and other gaming. Then you have general media, so it's both books and books, TV, stuff like that. Then you also have health/hospital, and then of course you have the dark orchard. And around it is this like dark sea, and then anything outside of that is just wilderness. So, the first area we're going to go over is the center. It is represented by Councilman Fred Heideson, and it's where the mother tree is. The mother tree is basically this big tree that has pages for leaves that also surround it flying sometimes, but also has it as leaves. And it's just the main source of all of the universe trees. So when a new tree is created for the alternate universes, you branch falls off the mother tree, and that's why it's called the mother tree. Its main focus is travel. Basically, the district is just: are you shopping from here? Are you trying to travel to a different district because it's in the center? And some universal trees are here, but mainly the universe trees are in a different district. So this one, represented by Everett Irev, or other known as Evie Irev, which is one of the characters you'll hear about later. And this one is also called the Government District because it's I forgot that I put it on there. Basically, it's all about like paperwork, office space, taxes, accounting, anything that you can think of with paper, or also technology, probably. But anyway, it's mainly office buildings. It's also, yeah, so technological development. So if there was AI research, it would be here. I'm not big on AI art, so I don't know how much would be there. But we do have androids that's canon to this realm, so it would probably be there on some level. Regardless, civil court is also found here. The criminal court is actually found somewhere else. So, but civil court, so say you're suing someone, or maybe you're getting a divorce, or maybe you're getting married, and it's all through here. It also help with taxes would be here. I don't think that's directly related to civil court, but it's that area. I don't know why that's called Area 3. It should be Area 2. Regardless, youth district. So this district is represented by Eliza Irev. And when I say represented, I mean like as part of the council because there is a council. So this district has Eliza Irev as the representative, and you have it also meaning the education district. So college, schooling, anything related of that, like not all of types of colleges. There probably is some sort of technology college in the office district since that is also about technological development. But your basic education, so yeah, your basic so I don't know, basic years of college, your high school years, your middle school years, that would be here. Any daycares are probably here because it's about the youth. And when you're thinking youth, I mean like teenagers and kids. So like teenagers and those under 13. So, and yeah, so in terms of aesthetic, I imagine it being sort of clouds, like soft clouds, soft, Candyland, maybe whimsical, bright fantasy, as opposed to dark and gritty, because it's supposed to be uplifting and encouraging and just a good place to be. Because it's the Eliza character is supposed to be like that sort of childish of like happy youth, happy innocence. Is that always the case? No, but that is the general aesthetic that I like to go with for this specific area of the district. Doesn't mean there aren't any way like any schools that can't exist in the other districts, but this is the one that's solely focused on it. And there are also orphanages here. So youth, there's actually a section that I once wrote in a Bill of Rights sort of document that I did for this uh, world, realm, whatever you want to call it, universe, and it included that at least kids, everyone has a right to a like place to live, and so if you're a kid, you will have a place to stay. So if say a teenager gets kicked out, they could go to the youth district and they would have a guaranteed location spot. It may take a bit to get to a permanent location within the district, but there are at least temporary areas where you can stay, so there is a place for you. There's also boarding schools. So, say you're either from a universe and are coming here to study, or maybe you want to be on a like closer to the office district, but then your parents live in the residential district. Maybe you just go to a boarding school so that you can get more interaction with other students, or you can just live there. Next is the residential district. I guess we just skipped. Oh, right, 2 was office district. That's why. Anyway, area 4, residential district. So this is represented by Lady Space, who is one of the masters of magic, and so it just made sense for her to be the leader of this area, which is more about cultural uh, things, intercultural relations area. So sometimes called the downtown district, includes various businesses. So you have department stores, clothing stores, gyms, spas, bars, parks, and restaurants. And so it's just a place where you can live. So while there may be universes in other departments, not departments, districts, or you have your kids going off to school, here's where the urban area is. So I also think that some people call it a shopping district or a shopping like area. Maybe there's like a sub district within the residential district. By the way, this is more of the suburban district for the whole place. Next is the utility district. This is represented by George Johnson. Gas, electricity, waste disposal, all sort of that. So like garbage, sewer stuff, all of that gets processed in this district. Well, not all of it, but a good majority of it. And it also does some manufacturing. So producing of, say, computers or paper, things of that nature, wood products. All of that gets processed here. Well, not all of it, but the majority of it gets processed here. So community service done here for inmates. So say you have a lighter crime and your main sentence is about community service, you would specifically do it in the utility district. So you would also gain some trade skills. So maybe you are, I don't know, convicted of, I don't know, shoplifting. Maybe you can help with the waste disposal as part of your job while you're in jail or something. I don't know. I haven't done a lot of figuring out how that would actually function, but I like the idea of that existing as an opportunity so you can build skills and not just be in jail. And speaking of jail, that's the next district. So this is the main prison area. It's represented by Jackie Irev because Jackie is also the head of the military. So it is the prison district. It handles temporary and permanent confinement based on crime. So if you have a very serious crime, like being a serial killer, you don't end up here. So this is more of like light sentences. Maybe you're in prison for, say, a year. You'd be in here because it's not, it is technically permanent because it's a long term, but it still exists. And depending on the crime, if it's non-violent, you'll maybe also be here in the jail district, and where you are located in the jail district really depends the crime. So, like I said, if you have a lighter sentence, then you might be closer to the utility district or the center district. If you have a heavier crime, then you're more away towards the sea, so they can ship you off to the Dark Orchard, or you can get surveillance because you're nearby the gaming district. So, and criminal court is also found here. Those court cases are done closer to the center district, but they still technically are part of the jail district specifically. So say you are charged of murder, you would be doing it would be tried in a jail district court. So Area 7, Gaming District. So this is also represented by Jackie Irev. They actually have like 3 districts that they oversee. But Universe Trees about gaming. So this is less about the citizens itself in the Grove and more about what Universe trees are existing. So these are trees that are about Undertale AUs, Minecraft AUs, or Minecraft AUs based off servers I played, D&D related universes. You also have any other TTRPG that comes up, Undertale ones that I did, and you also have LARPing areas for the citizens themselves, or if there are AUs about experiences that I've had while LARPing, then they would also exist here as well. You also find attractions such as laser tag, arcades, really anything to do with gaming. Casinos probably exist here in some form, but are definitely being relegated because I don't like the concept of gambling. Uh, and so that's just the gaming district. Next is the general media district. So this is sort of news media. This is TV shows, books, newspapers, magazines. So anything related to that. Represented by Jackie Connerson. Yes, I forgot to change the last name for the previous slides, but as it is the same person, like I said, news stations, non-gaming universities. So if there's an AU against Harry Potter, because I think I played the game once, but most of the media surrounding Harry Potter that I've ingested is through the movies. I haven't really read the books, mainly through the movies. So stuff like that, where it's not about gaming and those universes. Oh, a good example would be probably Leverage, the TV show, or Eureka, or Person of Interest. So I use it like that. Shows like My Little Pony, books like The Hunger Games would also be one, because I've never played a game off of that, but I have played survival games, but not Hunger Games specifically. And so books like that, Also, technically, that would count as a movie. Also, movies like Shrek. Shrek is just the first movie that I could think of that's like, I didn't also read or know that there is a book out there that is based off of a book. So I'm just like, oh, it's Shrek. Sure. So if I ever had an AU around Shrek or themed like Shrek, it might be under this section. So moving on. Medical District. You have represented by Eliza Connerson, and it is so two from Eliza because Eliza Arab is also the same person. Anyway, also called the Hospital or Health District because it is about medical care and research. It also provides a nursery for universe trees, so when the branch falls off the mother tree, it is taken to the medical district to hope that it continues existing. It's a place for extra care, and hospitals do still need to be around, even though we have healing magic, because the magic isn't that precise. There are clinics in every district. The medical district is just for ones that are more either long-term care or more advanced things. Also, if there's a dark plague incident, then it gets quarantined in um, this district. Area 10, the Dark Orchard. So, this is represented by Psych Ireb. Australia-like origin, but not respected as a separate entity. Basically, what I mean by this, all the criminals get sent there, and all of like the repressed feelings are like located there, which is why I say it's like Australia, because it's like all the stuff. It's a country sort of made from criminals, but that's just what came to mind when trying to explain where the Dark Orchard came from. Um, and I say origin specifically because I can't draw parallels on between Australia and what it currently looks like. It's not respected as a its separate entity though. It technically counts as part of the Grove and under the sort of area of influence, although it is considered to be more like a separate entity than the other districts. The other districts, oh, I can see how this is part of the same country. Dark Orchard, it's like a separate territory almost, but technically is still part of the nation. Mostly independent. Quality of life is debatable. There's definitely probably a way that you can live a good life, a comfortable life. However, it's like has been a hotel with overlords ruling. So that was the best. I don't. There's probably other comparisons I could make. Hasbin Hotel was just the first one where you have a bunch of sort of warlords or overlords ruling over the working class and are the sort of nobility of the town. Dark universes, so ones about horror sources such as Dead by Daylight, or adult ones with adult content because I am an adult, so I just things that may be more geared towards an adult audience. The only one I really have watched is Has Been Hotel, also Hell of a Boss, but those are the only ones that I could think of. Uh, Monster Prom probably also exists here, just because of its adult content, because I am a brood, and so it just feels weird to have those areas. So they're just kind of shoved in there. This Dark Orchard also was created back in high school when I was a lot more conservative. So Golden Valley. So as you can see, we're going to go touch on this for a moment. And so Mangrove. So that's what we're mainly doing. Then we have the Golden Valley, which is the town, and then Earth. It is a book location. So I do want to create a book of my like main set of OCs, and they will be in the Golden Valley. It's just a town or city that's located in a valley with mountains all around it, and it's just a place for me to stick certain things. Like I have this magical art gallery where you put a painting in there, and that painting influences the emotions of anybody who walks in that gallery, and it's just this art gallery that exists deep in the woods. It's things like that. So the name comes from the color scheme of the local academy. Uh, it's actually golden. I believe it's Golden Violet Academy is the name, and so you have gold and yellow. So you have yellow and purple as the color scheme, and I just ended up calling it the Golden Valley. Technically, this is one of those names where I want to change it eventually because I don't really feel like it. But at the same time, it's one of those names where I've used it so much, this is what comes out. Temporary solution that becomes a permanent one, or whatever the phrase is. So it's non-hub world building slash not part of the main grove. It's its own thing. So the districts don't exist there. They're not technically ruled by the council that runs it, and technically it's also not part of an Earth place, although there are ways to get it from the Earth universe. Checkpoint! These checkpoints are so that you can go grab a drink of water or grab a snack if you're part of the stream. If you're not, and you're watching this back as a VOD, you can still do the same. And if you are watching this on the Grovite Multiverse channel, then hope you have a good. This would be the end of the video. So hope you have a good day, night, whatever time it is for you, and hope to see you next time. Or you can just look in the description where I will have a link to the full presentation and video. And yeah. Ooh. I'm gonna drink some water before I continue. Yeah, that's like 30 minutes. I'm glad I made those checkpoints because they will definitely be useful if I ever want to edit. Anyway, moving on. We're going to talk about important characters in the Grove now. So, various citizens. Holly Smith, who's a fashion designer. Uh, Alivra Sparks Smith, part of the Golden Valley universe, but also Holly's sister, mechanic slash mechanical engineer. Neil Cosimer, Dark Orchard Overlord, keeps getting into the mainland somehow, no particular specialty in status. I'm not sure if that means alive or is citizenship, but regardless, these are just citizens that I wanted to highlight that I don't have a full slide for. Then Wingding Girl, or WDG, Undertale Orchard's Overseer. She just exists as one of the main characters I want to eventually do more with. I did have the idea of doing sort of like an Ask Venture on Tumblr with this character, but never got around to actually doing it, so yeah. And she knows Wingdings, and then because she's part of Undertale Orchard, which would be located in the gaming district, she knows Wingdings, and that's her main thing. Although she's also called Antica, because if she's not talking in Wingdings, she would have the font of Book Antica, which is one of my favorite fonts in GIMP, or at least was. I don't know if it's still there, but it might. Also, Heather Ramada, military aligned, police or detective. And then you have her sister, Andrea Andy Ramata, who is a bus driver and related to technology, to like transportation. But fun fact about Andy is that she's actually based off of a real life person. Because I had this bus driver in high school that I really enjoyed hanging out with. Not hanging out with. That's not what the word is. We've never hung out. But the bus driver had a really fun personality and like was just very passionate, liked to know your name, passionate about was a Cubs fan, was a strong Cubs fan. So it was just she's one of the bus drivers. I think she's the only bus driver which I knew her name. So just by that alone, you can understand how I would want to maybe base a character off of her because she was a positive experience. And so I made this character, and then I kind of just never gave up or forgot about this character. So, and he's here. Moving on, Oko, Iraset of Bartle. Now, there are a few OCs that I do have pictures for. I didn't do my main OCs with pictures because I wanted to make sure I could upload this on time and also get to bed on time at a reasonable hour. So, yeah, this one is one of the ones from a world building thing for Minecraft server I was on. The server was called Okon, or realm of Okan. Yeah, and this is one of the like saint characters, people mythological slash part of one of the major religions, specifically of the human nation of Bravos. Yeah, I'm gonna go back for the human nation of Bravos, and yeah, I just really like them a lot, and they're probably my favorite out of like the five that I created. Well, that's not the only character I created for the specific religion, which is called Pentawardism, but I just like the character, I like the design, I like their attitude, and I want to sneak them into more works when I can. They are arrow ace and intersex with they them pronouns. I don't remember if I think I looked up their specific kind of intersectionality, except I forget which one it was. But it was like either androgen insensitivity syndrome or something else. I don't specifically remember what specific kind, but they do exist, and they just felt like they would be arrow ace. So they're the fact they're arrow ace and not interested in relationships at all is very much canon. Patron over fishermen, sailors, messengers, and cavers, including miners. But also, if you go spelunking, they would be like someone wanting to help protect you. And this is due to their position as somebody who would take messages from miners or taking ores from miners and bringing them up to the surface area. Just part of their backstory, and their parents were fisher people, so people who would go fishing. So that's what they also did. But I also like the idea of them coincident as a result of that for their personal experience of being a messenger, but also protecting those on the sea. They would be connected to sailors. I also think they would be connected to merchants, but I'm not fully sure. I'm not fully sold on it. Not fully sold on it. I see what I did there. I did that. That was pun unintentional, but you know what? Keeping it because I'm doing this one in one take. But I would keep it even in editing. Regardless, references: Aeolus and Hermes from Epic the Musical. They have the similar vibes that I'm going for this character. So really fun character. More Aeolus than Hermes. There's specifically one female voice cover, which has sort of which captures the essence that I'm going for with my Hermes, but either way, they are just a fun character who likes a little bit of chaos, but also knows when to be serious. They also are dyslexic and have ADHD and would be patron or people who would take care of those as well. There's no reason for me to add this. I'm just like, yeah, this makes sense for this character. Going purely based off vibes, which is admittedly my main way of creating characters. I just create a basic concept and it's like, okay, I have this trait. Does it fit? Yes, no. If yes, then I keep it. If no, then I take it away. If I have a question, then I basically go off of a gut feeling. So, I like Oko, and we're going to move on. Next is Oxy the Forest Spirit. So this one was actually made during a Halloween-themed art stream. If it wasn't done this past Halloween, then it would have been the Halloween before. And it's he, they, it pronouns for this one. And when, I accidentally clicked too fast. When describing in a group chat about him, because I did share the art in one of the discords I was in, and I am currently still in, it was noted to be just a curious forest spirit who's just a pure bean and probably would like some bread. And I found this art while looking for the Oko art, and I just wanted to highlight him because he's adorable. So, I also don't know what this one is. I don't know. I say I also don't know what this one is. But that is reference to later. I don't know what species Oxy is. Just a generic forest spirit. Also, fun fact: he wasn't supposed to have hoof feet. He was supposed to have bird feet, but I found it too hard to draw, so I just ended up doing hooves instead. Next is Haruka, the school spirit, which is actually around for a long time because she was originally sketched after watching a ghost sighting video and getting inspired by one of the blurry figures in the video. Basically, I had this half for her, just sort of, oh, it looks like she's peeking out. And so she exists as this. So this specific picture is from a stream as Oxy because it would be a lot clearer than the sketches that I was able to find eventually. Uh, so she was / is a spirit that lives in a school, so probably can be found in the youth district. So she is a cute character. I like her design and might redo it now that I have the sketches available to me. But that isn't for today. Next is Arona, who is one of the people I also love and want to stick somewhere. This specific picture was actually from a video, which I will talk a little bit more about later. But she was originally from, wow, that is a long fading time. Anyway, originally from a random story I wrote. Since then, she's made an appearance in a NaNoWriMo book, then was a goddess for a D&D campaign, then became whatever is on the right. So, when I mean a short story, I mean like one of those times where I just had the urge to write something, and so I just started writing that down. And then I'm like, oh, sure, I'll take this as part of the NaNoWriMo book, which is why she looks a little bit like a skeleton. It's because she was a skeleton in that NaNoWriMo book. NaNoWriMo is a challenge where you write 50,000 words in a month, and I participated in it for a long time. I don't anymore, mainly due to time issues. But regardless, she made an appearance, and then she was a goddess for a D&D campaign, or at least I based off one of the goddesses in that D&D campaign because I was doing custom Pantheon, and she was one of them. And then I decided to redesign her, to be part of the Grove. And I really like and find her design very satisfying. I want to draw her more because she looks very cool. However, I'm not sure what species she is. Uh, I do want to create more of her species just because I think it would be cool to see what variations I could create, but I just really like it. Also, those ears are supposed to be specifically bat ears. So, yeah. And originally it was just going to be like generic skeleton with magical ears and an eye, and then I forgot to put definitions around where the bones of the fingers would be, so based off a skeleton, did not actually exist as a skeleton, and I accidentally clicked forward, also called Umbria or Krona. So Arona technically is for her more battle or death-oriented person, like name. But then you also have Umbria, where it's more about judgment and knowledge. And for Umbria, so Arona is like carnage or the end of a battle. I think it's related to something in Welsh. And then Umbria is just from Omni, like the Omni prefix. And Krona is supposed to be like chronicle. And I think Krona is supposed to be the one where it's more also about knowledge. And rules over death / associated with it. I don't know the specifics of what Arana would be doing in the Grove. Definitely would be part of the sort of laws, but specifically the judgment of laws. So a judge probably would have an office in the office district. I'm not sure exactly what job she would have though. And notably a biromantic asexual because I keep coming up with this character Taya who ends up in a romantic relationship with Arona, and they're very happy together. And it's actually canon to the NaNoWriMo book. It's hinted at, but it is canon. It just keeps coming up, and I do say biromantic because it's actually a slight plot point in the NaNoWriMo book that she actually had a crush on a guy, but I don't see her having any any like sexual relations with anybody. She's more about the romantic feelings. So I'm like, oh, biromantic asexual. That makes sense. Also, I was reviewing the slide for this presentation earlier today, and I realized her design kind of looks like the ace flag, or at least has colors of the ace flag. The only thing that doesn't really work is the brown bags around her waist. But I'm sure some people can see what I mean. Also, she enjoys painting. The funny thing about the enjoys painting part, I just needed a prop during a scene in the NaNoWriMo book. I just needed her to do something, and I'm like, she's painting, sure, that'll work. Like I said earlier, or in the, yeah, earlier, I just create things based off a gut feeling, and I just like to go with the first, um, what's it called? Image in my brain. So there's that. Also, I do have a video on her on the Grovite Multiverse channel. It's for one of my Unis Honest videos, because she's related to death. So I thought it would be thematic on one of the anniversaries of Unis Honest to do a video about her. So if you want to know more about her in a more in-depth way, you can. Why are you blinking? I messed up with the animations, so there we go. So Grovite Council, Part 1, the non-IREVs, because the IREVs are sort of like a ruling class, but there are some people of the council who aren't part of that family. So, Al Frederick, other known as Fred Heideson. He is a councilman over the Center District. Name originates from two family references. Fred, the other child, aka an additional brother in the household of my IRL family, and then Heidi from bedtime stories that my parents would tell. Heidi was specific to me, and I decided, you know what, Heideson makes sense as a last name. Pretty chill. Just not much development. I just know he exists because I like the inside joke. That is it. On to George Johnson. So, began as a cultural custodian, janitor of the Storytelling Academy. So I referenced in the location section of the presentation where I just, I lost my train of thought. There needed to be a janitor, so George Johnson. I don't actually know what his last name is, which I will get into in a moment. He is the head of the utility district. I thought that would make sense considering his past as a janitor, so he would know more about that. Obviously, his knowledge would be expanded, but either way, it made sense for him to be an OC who I'd elevate to that status. And he is canonically dating Lady Space. Both of them are like 60 years old or something. And so they're dating just because I think it'd be fun to have an older couple. And the last name was decided when making these slides. I know he has a last name. I didn't know. Oh, you can. Apparently you can scroll if you want to just click forward or click backward. Didn't know that. Now I do. Anyway, the last name was decided when making these slides because although I know he has a last name, I did not remember what it was. So all I knew him was like the George that used to be a janitor that's dating Lady Space and has a mustache. So anyway, George Johnson. Next is Lady Space. From the Storytelling Academy era. Like I said, dating George Johnson, but has also been around a while. Lady Space, I believe, was the head mistress of the Storytelling Academy. Either way, I really like her name, so I just continued using her. She's the councilwoman over the residential district because she's also the head of a space mage society, not yet named. The society isn't yet named, although I do know she's part of the space mages because that's her specific magic. The name came before the magic, sort of. I knew that I wanted teleportation type magic, and her name fits. She also seems like the kind of person who would be respected of that status. She's also on the board of Portal Management and Relations Department. So Portal Relations is referencing like what relations do they have about the people on the other side. So I mentioned the Golden Valley in the locations section of this video, and that would be one of the locations that she helps manage the relations of. Yeah. She is adventurous but also caring, so she will help like fix up your wounds. But she's also the kind of person who'd be like, "Wow, well, wasn't that exciting?" And then the person next to her is just like, "We almost died." Again, exciting. Knows when to be playful and when to be serious. Inspirations for her character: Master Yoda from Star Wars, Uncle Iroh, and Granny from Hoodwinked. Granny from Hoodwinked just because of the idea that, like, ah yes, Granny, who is in extreme sports. Uncle Iroh because of her caring nature and how she goes about it. And then Master Yoda. I just remembered Master Yoda when thinking about inspirations for her character. I don't actually know how much that fits, but I wrote it down just in case. Next is Vexton Zato Irev. Literary son. Basically, I created this concept and went, yep, that's my son now. I have other OCs. He's the only one who has like, ah yes, you are definitely my son. No idea why. And then I just felt bad ever cutting off that bit, so yeah, I just kind of stayed around. Next, I used to have 2 different colored lenses because around the same time I was looking into Homestuck, and Solix is the character who has different colored lenses. Now not different colors because I want to separate him from being a Solix, like, from that character, because he's his own character. So he does still wear glasses, although they're a different color. They are shades, just stylish shades. And Business of Paper Stars by Hawthorne Heights was an inspiration when creating this character. I was listening to that song and had this character pop into my head. Worked as a Stardust packet producer in the Abyss. So in the Abyss, when they get energy filtered down into that realm, they end up with just packets of Stardust, which they then Stardust, like gem stars, and then they take those Stardust like gemstones or just dust piles, and they put them into packets, and then those packets are used as currency. So, literal moneymaker. And that's where paper stars comes from. Or at least that's where, the idea of paper stars. Woo. Now works as the head of technological development. So, sort of bridges the line between being in the medical district and the office district. Is good friends with Lady Space, mainly due to the fact that they both were in the Storytelling Academy concept. So, back in there. And he would actually be one of the people who would be monitoring the towers of the tower portals that existed in the Storytelling Academy. He would actually be the ones who like, oh, there's a new person. I'm gonna go see that new person and evaluate if they are a threat. Next, Arden Silverson. Psychirev's best friend, boyfriend specifically, is a ghost who is linked with a car, basically died in the car and ended up possessing the car. The ability to see, hear, smell, and touch him decreases the further away from the car or the car keys he is. So say he's like 6 feet away, one of the senses drops. So either you can't smell, you can't see him, you can't hear him, or you can't touch him. And then say another 6 feet. Well, now another sense goes away. So around, 24 feet, you can't hear, smell, see, or hear, or touch him. And I think it was like 36 feet, which admittedly is pretty far away. Uh, he can't go beyond that boundary. He is part of the Golden Valley story because, Psych, Irev's in that story, so it kind of happened. Has perception magic, possibly more. I think he has more perception magic, is the only one that I fully remember because he's able to create an illusion and change what he looks like. So, probably also has form magic because of that, but regardless, this is what exists. Used to be called Rojo before character update. Yes, that is a reference to red in Spanish because it was going to be a red car, but now it switched to a silver car, and so I wanted to rename him. And I actually ended up doing sort of a character overhaul for that character because of it. And so now he is a much stronger character because before he was just like, oh yeah, Psycho-Rev's boyfriend. That's his title. That's all about what his character was, other than the fact he was a ghost in a car. And now he's a lot more snarky. The scene where he meets Psych is actually one of my favorite scenes that I've ever written. So, checkpoint. So, if you are watching this on the viewing video on my streaming channel, then this is a good time to pause, maybe take a drink of water, maybe do a bathroom break, maybe go eat something, maybe go do that activity you've been meaning to procrastinate on. I'll be here when you get back. Although, if you're part of the Grovite Multiverse channel, this would be the end of the video, so I hope you have a good day, night, whatever time it is for you, and goodbye! However, for everybody else who is not going anywhere, I'm going to drink some water, and then I'm going to continue talking. All right. Oh. So, next, Grovite Council Part 2. So, of course, you had a few people on the council, but then you also have the Irev family, who is originally going to be just those on the council. So, it was just going to be the Irevs, who are my main OCs, but now they're just a second part. And I wasn't sure if I was going to have more slides in this section or less, so I ended up making just their own part. So, we do have a family tree, because family tree. So first, you have the Irevs, so the main ones. And you have these, 7 sisters? Technically sisters, but not all of them use, at least at the time when this section was created, with these specific characters, they were all sisters. Now, not everyone uses she, her pronouns. The majority of them do not. So you have Sam, Evie, Psych. Those 3 on the left are specifically what are called the triplets, just because they aren't the other ones. So these are the ones those 3 are the ones that look the most like me, sort of, or would be if they existed in real life. Meanwhile, the others, not so much. So you also have Sage, Sasha, Kat, Amelia, and so you have that group. Then you also have the Connerson brothers, Blake and Jake Connerson. I don't know who Connerson is. Eventually I will, I just haven't gotten that far yet. I just know that the Connersons exist because I wanted to. I'll get into this a little bit later, but eventually there was Blake Connerson, and Jake Connerson just made sense as well. I think it was. Wait, no, I think Jake came up first. Because I was doing, role playing with Self, and I needed a last name for Jake. And so Jake Connerson popped up. Regardless, you also have Amelia. Oh, gotta go back. You have Jackie, who is the child of Amelia and Jake Connerson, although they technically also merged. But this is the only relationship that is specifically, yes, this is the children, so that's why I notated it as like I did. Oh. You also have Sage and Sasha, who ended up merging into Shade, and then Kat and Shade ended up merging into Eliza, and then Blake had adopted Kat adopt as a sibling, and so adopted Eliza as sibling as well, because that is a legal thing that you can do within the Grove. But for living members in the current day, you have the main family, which represent pieces of me, Sander sides. I just realized I wanted more complex characters, so I just merged a few of them. Made the family before I knew about the Sander sides, though. Psyche, for example, and Evie and Kat were all made. It was in my head before I knew about Sander sides. I just made more of an effort to develop those specific characters based off of what I knew about myself. The only living / current characters got specific slides because I wanted it to be done on time. This is all wanting it to be done on this presentation to be available to be recorded on time is also why they don't have pictures, at least updated pictures. So you have Evie, Psyche, Sam, Jackie, Blake, and Eliza. So those are the ones that we will be going over in this section of the presentation. So Quinn / Psyche Irev, about 30 years old, they them pronouns, and their specific color is red. All of the OCs, like these main OCs, have a specific color associated with them, mainly because I tend to assign OCs my characters a specific color just as a way to differentiate them in my own head. Just helps organize them mentally. For Psyche, it's specifically red because reasons. They are the ambassador of the Dark Orchard. Technically, they're not a representative, but they are the ones. Because of how independent the Dark Orchard is, it makes more sense for them their role to be more of an ambassador, so they are one. They are representative of passion, so they are my passionate side of the personality. So their anger, when I'm angry at someone or when I'm loving someone, which is one of the reasons they're in a relationship. They're like a current relationship. So just representative of those feelings. However, they are more edgy. I like to imagine they're more like a rock and roll style. They're also very angsty because they're just the bits of the personality that I have that is more like emo, which I used to try to stuff down, but now I have a more healthy, where it's as long as I can process them in a healthy way, then it's good. And yeah, just someone who is a lot more not I had a thought, but then it flew away. Quinn comes from their story portion in the Golden Valley series. So with the book series, Psyche originally existed in a lab and then broke out and ended up in the Golden Valley. And Quinn actually, they needed a name other than their previous name, which is Quill, and they're like, Quinn is totally my name. So, yeah. They're not 30 in that story, but they're 30 roughly in what I imagined them to be in my head. Next one is Everett, or Evie for short. Usually I refer to her as just Evie. They're about 28 years old. She, they pronouns, because they do understand that they, them makes more sense for who I am, but she would specifically probably prefer she, her, but uses both because feels like it's accurate. Evie's color is a deep blue. Perfectionist, critical of others due to my self-criticism. Basically, part of one that usually I direct my perfectionism inwards, although for Evie specifically, can direct it outwards. Causes her to be prideful and self-righteous, and I'm really glad that she's not the main side in control because otherwise I could be very mean. So for her, I try to regulate as much as possible because I know if I don't, I can become a jerk. So fortunately, I'm able to just point her inwards, and it's a lot easier to regulate in that way. Just sort of make sure nothing's going wrong. But I like the idea of, because she's so perfectionistic and double checking things and being organized, it makes sense for her to be one that's the head of the office district due to the passion of organization. So there are good things, but she's not over everybody. She's not good for in every situation and enjoys productivity. Semirev, me, or at least the one that I mainly associate with me, which is like my main writing persona. So, I am 25 years old, although in my head, Samurai Rev is actually about around 26. In certain like role plays, it may be actually be 24, but in this specific instance, it's actually 26. They, them. That is my pronouns. And Sam's color is dark green. My self-insert slash the one that is most like me. Woo! Enjoys writing, singing, drawing, and Minecraft. The content creator slash the main one. Usually in some sort of coma to represent me visualizing different worlds or creating and not being fully present. It's like, I'm part of the narrative. I'm just not part of the narrative. So, just sort of, this is representing of me in the background, like still an important part, but not fully there. Middle name is a Princess Bride reference and a reference to my real life parents who use it as a nickname. So, at least that's where I assume I get the Buttercup. I didn't fully check before making this presentation, but I'm pretty sure that's where it's from, because the princess in Princess Bride is Princess Buttercup. So, woo! Next is Jackie. So, I forgot to take out Psych. This isn't Psych. So anyway, Jackie was around 18 years old, they then. Jackie's color is orange. Inherited the military general position from their father, Jake, military general and head of the jail district. Inherited the media counselor position from her mother, from their mother, Amelia. And so that's the head of the media district. And although I want to change who the person of the media district is, I just never fully thought about changing it before, and so Jackie is still it. Chose to be the leader of the gaming district because they really like video games. Mist magic is their energy magic, but can also shapeshift. So Jackie can actually shapeshift between a more feminine one, which they tend to use more often, or a masculine form. But when it comes to like regular magic usage, it's, yes, I shall make a glass-looking sword that's extremely sharp, or I will create a shield to protect others, or boom, fire blast, things like that. And like I said, enjoys video games, but also enjoys pizza and swimming. So Jackie is also the most athletic of them, but I'm not that athletic, but I do enjoy swimming, so decided to use that as a sports reference. Eliza Connerson is about 16 years old. She, they pronouns. Eliza's color is purple. Head of the youth education district because she's the younger one. Sage gave essence to Sasha, turning into Shade, and then Shade and Kat merged to become Eliza. Kat had already been adopted by Blake, so continued that dynamic, and their strongest magic is their shapeshifting. I was reflecting on their shapeshifting while writing this slide, and there's like 10 or 12 forms. They have their like elven form, their pixie form, but actually sized like a 16-year-old, like a human 16-year-old. They have a cat form. They have I believe it's a dove form. They have an angel form. Angel such as the feathery wings and looks humanoid but has feathery wings. They have a cat form. They have a cat hybrid form. I think I mentioned cat form twice accidentally. But you get my point. Many forms. Enjoys tea, comfy clothes, and an atmosphere. Just cozy time. So cozy, just being a bit of a child, or enjoying this sort of youthful whimsy situation. Blake Connerson, about 20 years old. he, him pronouns. And Blake's color is dark yellow. I said question mark because I don't know how to specifically get his. I don't remember what his color was supposed to be. I think it was dark yellow. And I tried my best to get a color that would represent well on the slide. Ambassador of the Dark Orchard. So technically is helping Psyche with being in the Dark Orchard, and was actually in the Dark Orchard for a period of time. Was also in a coma for a period of time, but regardless, that's one of the things he does. However, he also assists. I even double checked the spelling of that word assists and still got it wrong. I know that's incorrect. Regardless, assists Eliza in her duties and takes care of them just as a way to help out. So sort of helps both Eliza and Psyche in the government. Specifically a trans dude, because it used to be Monty or Monty as a girl, and a bit of time when a guy as well with that specific name, because it was a nickname from the word monster. So when I was thinking of like rage or being angry or having uncomfortable dark feelings of just wanting to lash out, I had this picture in my head of a shadow person, like a shadow version of myself, sort of like the stereotypical where it's just like all black and like a shadow. I don't know any good other word, like just like a void with the red eyes and just like stalking. That's what like the picture I had. But then when I was creating a bunch of these characters and Jake merged with Eliza to create Jackie, I'm like, okay, but my personality isn't just a guy, isn't just a girl. It's also a guy. So I want a guy one out of like the main IREF family. And so transitioned into Blake when given the chance. Blake Connerson's the name is specifically from a Minecraft Minecraft roleplay that I used to be part of. My Massive Craft. I have one of my characters on there, so that's Blake. And yeah, that's where the name came from, and it stuck. So Blake. Well, werewolf / wolf hybrid with shape-shifting powers, so Blake can shape-shift between a wolf form, a like dog hybrid form, like ears and tail. If you watch Aphmau at all, then that sort of werewolf design, and then also has an elf form, and also has like a human form. So many different forms. But Blake is just Blake. and and I do feel like if he wasn't trans, that would take away from his story. It just because he has a past, so it'd feel like erasing part of his past. So that's why he's specifically trans and not just a guy. Next is another checkpoint. So, if you're watching this on the if you're watching this on the Grovite Multiverse channel, hope you have a good day, night, whatever time it is for you, as this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching, and goodbye! Now, if you're watching this when it's streaming live or the full VOD, this is a good time for you to pause, maybe get a snack, maybe get some water or other drink. Just take a moment to rest, maybe pause the video and go on a walk, or do that chore you've been neglecting, or that homework, depending on the time of year. I don't know. I don't know what you're doing. Either way, I'm going to take a drink of water, and then we'll continue forward with our last section of the presentation. How long have I been going on for? I've been going on for over an hour. I'm actually impressed. I'm pretty satisfied with how this has been going, but I hope you've been enjoying this, because I've just been enjoying about, like, just rambling on about my characters and everything about this grove. So, hope you've enjoyed what I've been doing so far. Either way, I'm taking a drink, and then I'll be continuing on. Alright, so, welcome back if you're on the Grovite Multiverse channel, or welcome just in general. And if you are watching the VOD, here's the next section. We're going over the magic system because I like fantasy and I wanted to work on a magic system. So, what are the magical basics of my system? Firstly, a magical elemental magic system. So it's elemental based. 1. Multiple kinds can be used at once. So if you can use form, you can use energy magic, and you can also use form, or liquid and form magic can be used to mess around with ice, for example, or snow or frost. That's what I mean when you can use multiple at once. So you can use multiple aspects of the magic system, more elements at once, to create more complex effects. But the the main elements are what's used to sort of group spells together and to help people understand. So in order to progress, to get stronger in magic, you just need to practice, such as any skill, like drawing or singing or athletics. So say if you're running, then you can get faster at running. However, it also depends on what kinds of magic you are practicing. So, for example, you may be a strong runner, but you may not lift often, or you may lift but not be a strong swimmer. Maybe you could be better than a person who isn't athletic, who doesn't take a lot of time to practice, but you're still it's not your specialty. That's what I'm trying to get at. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, any Grovite can learn magic. It's not based on any oh, you need to be a certain kind of Grovite or anything. Just because it's a lot more fun if there's anyone can learn. Any Grovite, non-Grovite can also have limited yet expanded magic. For example, wand users would still need wands, but can still use any type of magic. Wizards would still need to use their spellbook or maybe need to use their set of spells in order to access magic, but they would still be able to use the magic of the world. Katara, the waterbender from Avatar: The Last Airbender, would be able to bend any liquid, so would be able to still use her water bending, and but would also be able to bend, say, milk, for example, if she so wanted, etc. So it's just sort of expanded. So first one that we will go over is the perception element, which is gray or yellow depending on what's needed, because all of the kinds of magic are associated with a type of color, just because people like doing that in fantasy, where it's grouping certain things into other things, into boxes. And so associating them with a color helped me as well. And that's perception. every single element has a rule that goes along with it. For perception, it added the rule reality consists in two parts, what you perceive and what things are. So this is a lot about illusions. So disguise self. You would not physically be your other person, but the other person who you're talking to might see something else. Or you might want to amplify your voice so everyone else can hear what you're saying, but maybe you're speaking normal volume. Or maybe you use magic to lower your volume artificially so you can talk quietly with somebody else, but not be whispering inherently. It's also associated with light and dark magic. That's actually probably, other than voice, that's probably what you're thinking of. So say you want to teleport through shadows, or cast darkness, or maybe you want to manifest a ball of light so you can read, or go through a cavern. That would be under perception, because you're messing around with light. Sometimes referred to as shadow magic due to the fact that it shares both light and dark visual magic. actually uses all the senses. So, for example, you can modify somebody else's tastes or their own. So, say you wanted to, I don't know, have some sort of medicine that doesn't taste good to take, you could modify your own senses so it does taste good. So maybe you don't like the taste of cherry, but you like it this specific texture or something, or for whatever reason, you could, instead of it tasting like cherry, you could say, oh, it tastes like chocolate ice cream, or insert favorite dessert or candy here. Toph from Avatar The Last Airbender would have some sort of perception due to her ability to sense things through the ground. It wouldn't solve her blindness. It should be noted, it does not solve her blindness. It only means that she's able to understand the world around her through that perception. I'm not sure if how she would use said magic, but technically, since she's has some sort of sense beyond what is regular for a person, then she probably could have it. That's iffy. I'm just gonna say that's an iffy one, but technically is accurate. Telepathy would also be under perception as well, because it'd be part of like hearing, but not really hearing somebody else. It just makes more sense to put here. Next is form, orange/brown. True form exists, but can be changed by the holder. So if you do shapeshift, you do have like a true form that you revert back to, but you can always change what that form is if you have enough magic. Earth magic, specifically rock or stone, would be under this category. So Toph, yeah, would be able to access this magic type. And this would be the main type that she uses. Also shapeshifting, changing one's form, which, yes, does mean that technically Toph could shapeshift in my magic system. So this also goes back to the 3 that can shapeshift in my main OCs. So werewolves, when they're shifting between like a hybrid form or a wolf form, would be under form magic. Frost and snow magic, debatable, because you change the state of something. I think you would have to do a lot of practice to get it down, but technically, because it's a solid, it could technically count as form. Orange because brown is just dark orange, and brown is dirt. Not much thoughts about it. Next is, oh come on, I forgot I hope this isn't for all of the rest of the slides, but okay, well, one cannot force magic effects onto another without consent. So influence magic is about voice magic. Perception can be volume, so perception could be volume, but influence is more about the emotions. So there is like bard magic where you rally cry and you give inspiration to another, or maybe it's easier for you to manipulate others to do your bidding. So, but you can't. But how does that work with cannot force magic onto another without consent? It's like definitely there are still some magic issues that can happen, but say you're trying to say someone is having like trying to ground themselves in reality and calm down. If someone's speaking to them to help them calm down and using their voice to help ground the person who's maybe panicking, because that person is focusing on their voice and allowing themselves to be calmed down by that person. If that person is using influence magic to help you calm your emotions, then it's going to be better than somebody who isn't using influence magic. I hope that made sense. That's the best example of how that can work. But because magic can't force magic effects onto another without consent, magic which cures disabilities has to be done with the consent of the person whose disability is being cured. So I might do a follow-up video specifically about healing magic, but it is influenced by this type of magic. It's also about this magic also is for garden or plant magic, so growing plants. Green also represents me, so making that sense for a magic color aside from plants, with my influence being everywhere within the grove. And also gives an explanation of why, even though energy is actually magenta, as we will touch on later, why the plants are still relatively green. My boyfriend actually helped me name this magic type because originally I had like form, perception, space, plants. Influence just made more sense because you're influencing the plant to grow faster and things. Yeah. Woo. Moving on. Liquid is represent blue because of water association. However, liquid is sometimes a loose term. As long as it moves, it it could theoretically be considered a liquid. Not living beings, though. Well, there could be living beings in it, like pond water or blood. If technically viruses could count as living, I don't know if they count as living. Regardless, water, milk, blood are all lava, all are examples that could be considered. Mist can be controlled at higher levels of magic because it's still technically water particles, but at the same time, that's more of like an air manipulation thing, so I don't know if it fully counts, but it's mostly straightforward. If it's a liquid people using liquid magic um, can use it. So, space, purple, places a point in space. That's the basic magic of space, where you're manipulating points of magic, points in time. Well, not points in time. Well, yes, sort of, but mainly points in space. So teleportation, opening portals, levitation, because you're changing where a thing is in space, like someone's position in space. That's what you're modifying. So you can work with form magic to change the size of something, so if you want to shrink or become bigger, you can. That's one of the reasons why shape-shifting magic works. You also can access a dimensional inventory, a soul inventory, so say you're playing a video game and you have your inventory. Yeah, in the grove that's controlled by space magic. You can also make pocket dimensions, so uh, a TARDIS would be fully possible within the grove. Next is purple. Next point is purple. So purple is often related to space in my experience, sort of with astral bodies. Also, dimensions in Minecraft and teleportation in Minecraft is related to purple. So that's why I assigned it the color purple. And then lastly, you have energy magic, which is located with magenta, and so which is a color which is pure red and pure blue, but technically the wavelength isn't on the visual spectrum. And because, so technically the color exists, but technically also the color doesn't exist because we can't see what color it is. So magenta is just the color that comes out of that. So I thought that would make sense for energy, just pure energy magic. I just thought it would be like, ah, yes, magic. It's also fire and lightning magic, tool manifestation magic, looks like glass. So shield, weapons, pickaxes, anything that you can create. Technically, if you wanted to, you could create a fork temporarily to help you eat, or chopsticks. That would count. Nothing, no. I mean, I guess machines. If you knew the inner workings of the machine, but just know that it would disappear, including any hard drives that you're trying to make in computer. So that's why people would usually do like shields or weapons. Plus, it would take energy to keep up with it over a long period of time. So if you want to hold the spell, you better concentrate or know that it's around, because once you forget about it, it'll go poof. Very much a concentration spell. And all magic takes energy, so going back to the athletics analogy, if you're running for a long time, that takes energy. And if you lose a lot of magic over time, then you're going to get drained. For healing magic, it's like taking health potion like a health point from you to another. So it's like you giving your energy to another, which is why it's important that nurses in and doctors or anybody who's treating somebody gets rest after healing somebody because it's physically draining. And it's also why the hospital district exists, because something might not be able to be healed in a certain way, or there may be need to be do more research so you can heal somebody more effectively, or maybe you need to rest after, say, setting a broken bone and healing it. However, diseases are too hard. That meant to be two with two O's. Diseases are hard because of how they like germs and are very tiny. You can't really cure them with healing magic. Theoretically, if you live long enough and you practice hard enough, you probably could. I'm not putting it off the table. However, it would be hard. It'd be a lot more easier to restore something such as like a broken bone or a scar, like you got scraped and now you're healing that. Things like that. Um, it would be a lot easier to restore air magic. However, if you noticed, both healing magic and offensive magic is in one type of magic with energy. So war clerics are definitely a thing, which I found really funny. I realized this at least a few months ago, definitely. And yeah, war clerics definitely exist and are probably the fiercest on the battlefield. Because yeah, they can be healing something, or someone, but at the same time, they can look up and just shoot a bow and arrow that they manifest or throw a fireball. They would be fierce warriors, and I think it would be cool. Also, war healers, I guess, could be right, but war clerics just sounded right. I don't know what god they would believe in because they don't have a pantheon, but either way, war fighters, war healers, war nurses on the battlefield. If you are under the care of one of those, just know you're probably gonna make it out alive because you're using energy magic all the time. So even if you don't practice, you're still probably going to have good fire magic. So say you have somebody who uses water magic actually space magic. Say somebody is a messenger, so teleports along a lot of the time and to different locations. They are going to be strong in teleportation, but not necessarily in a fireball. A nurse who usually is working in, like, say, the ER or something, maybe doesn't have to use fire magic, offensive magic often, maybe occasionally, but maybe usually just uses healing magic, would be way stronger at casting a fireball than the person with space magic all the time, because it's in the same magical group. Either way, that is the end. That is the end of this presentation. So if you're watching this on the streaming channel, this is the end of the video. And if you're watching over on my Grovite Multiverse channel, also end of the video. So if you did stick with me through this entire presentation, thank you. And if you want to watch the entire presentation and you're over on the Grovite Multiverse channel, I'll leave a link down in the description so you can watch the full presentation that goes over the history, basic locations, the characters of the Grove. I'll have that linked down in the description. Either way, hope you enjoyed watching this presentation. It's been going on for, let's see, what is it? It is now, how long is this? About an hour and a half. Not too bad for a presentation that I put together. There's like 52 slides, I think. By the way, I think I did pretty good. Woo. So, again, thank you for watching. Hope you have a good day, night, whatever time it is for you, and goodbye!